Ah, video time. Yay. Anyway, this lying piece of trash made another lying trash video. Yeah. So context. Oh, so we have the context of Anticontivide getting in, making prayer videos. You know, he calls it meditation. Yeah, right. I don't know whether Logic Rolls the Dice started that or not. I don't know. He made some kind of meditation video. I didn't watch that, of course. Please. Um, what? Meditating, fantasizing. What's the difference? It's all bullshit. Whatever you do, okay. However you rub your belly to make it all okay, I don't care. You're going to give people instructions on how to rub your belly correctly? I mean, why don't I just do masturbation videos? I'll explain to you all how to masturbate properly. It's just so silly. Well, it probably would be educational. Probably would be a point in doing that, actually, because probably people are doing it wrong. No doubt. No. Anyway, doesn't matter. So context. I haven't seen Hotladay's moronic name for a little while, but nice, quiet. But anyway, so he showed up on one of Logic Rolls the Dice videos with some kind of comment, and Logic Rolls the Dice made some kind of comment like, "Oh, you're just such a nice fellow, and you've never said anything poopy," and blah 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 blah. And it was all this sucking this asshole's limp dick, and it just sort of pissed me off because everything this asshole says is so obnoxious to anyone who wants to do something called logic. If you want to talk about logic, you're not going to be able to do it with moron, cement-headed pieces of shit like this. And so I guess because he hasn't, because Hotladay doesn't bother arguing in text like Carla Della Stella, then Logic Rolls the Dice assumes that, oh, this is a much nicer person, a much more civil person. It's not the truth. This is the same asshole. It's no difference. So I think I'd like for Logic Rolls the Dice to, basically Holiday's insulting your philosophy here too. So why don't you just assume this video titled Inmendham's Lament, why don't you just consider this Logic Rolls the Dice's lament? And then see if you think this guy is making anything other than a gratuitously insulting pile of shit, steaming shit of a video. Straw man and nonsense all the way through. And overt, just grotesque lies. I mean, he knows. I mean, we've sitting there and had the exchanges, so there's no way he could get it wrong. He was there, he's heard the arguments, and he can't paraphrase them correctly? Come on. So anyway. So that's my preface to this. And it's no doubt a waste of time, in a way. This is a tiny minority of human beings that can't understand that, oh yes, there's this thing, this reality here, where, yes, an apple without a razor blade is better, intrinsically, than an apple with a razor blade in it. Yeah, they can understand that. Especially when it's an apple their kid is going to eat.
Been a while. Inmendham video. I know I didn't, I will do. I just have to have the motivation for it to finish off my take on Kantian ethics. I've done it time and time.
Crud on the screen. Yes, that's right. And there's nowhere to go with your Kantian ethics. Okay, his ethics are basically the ethics of a bigot. Okay, so his first priority is what do I want. His second priority is what's good for men. His third priority is what's good for white men. But that's all it is. It's an ethics made of nothing but subjective crap. He's saying that he is somehow compelled and motivated by a fantasy story. Okay, that he's declared it to be a fantasy. He said his definition is not the truth. He's not attempting to discover the truth of value, because he's saying there is no truth of value. Now, if I believe that, if I sincerely believe that, why would I give a fuck about any kind of cultural norms or decency or any of that shit. I wouldn't. And I'd be a monster. And so you're an idiot. And you're just too unimaginative to be even a monster and an idiot. You're too boring to even be a good monster. But frankly, okay, if I had your ethics, I'd be a motherfucking monster.
Yeah, as well, so I have to wait till
Well, if I had your idiotic notion that the truth isn't revealed in one's understanding of ethics, that one thinks what they think is valuable is actually connected to the reality of value. If I didn't believe that these values I have are real, they wouldn't have any effect on me, idiot. Jeez.
it gets me to fully articulate it, but I listened to one of Inmendham's recent videos just earlier, and I realised that I'm still puzzled and probably not got a reasonable answer to something.
Yeah, whatever. You're just full of shit. Okay, we've been over this and over this and over this. And you just keep evading, okay, by pretending that I haven't explained this in depth. The distinctions and the qualifications I make to words like purpose. Idiot. Liar. You're just a liar. Like I said, we've been over this too many times to keep playing this game.
I notice Inmendham carries on.
Yeah, so now we're going to get to the nonsense part. So I'll say Holiday just keeps whimpering on.
A perpetual, a constant theme in his videos.
Constantly whimpering.
It is a grumble.
Yes, a whimper. Just keep whimpering. Oh, they're doing philosophy on the internet. Don't they know that there is no such thing? Little whimpering about how there's no such thing as philosophy. There's no such thing as the logical analyzing of the evidence of existence and the proper categorization of the consequences of its presence.
A gripe with the fact of the matter that the
Just count how many times he says gripe. Just do it, and then you can count how many times I'm going to call him a little whimpering, sycophantish creepoid, creepette.
there is no purpose, or not that.
Yeah, that's right. You shouldn't even have used the word, because I don't use that word. What I say is there's no redeeming value. It's not a good purchase. Okay, it's not a good value exchange. The thing you are compromising or putting at risk is too valuable for what your profit is, which is the satisfaction of an unneeded need. The fact that I have turned it into an economics equation there's no way you can avoid that. I have talked about it as economics, as a value exchange, as a value equation, over and over and over again. Purpose was never anything I injected into this thing beyond the statement that without a God, you can't assume life is accomplishing something. It's not healing a wound in the universe, okay? Without a God who has a desire to be satisfied, there's nothing that life does intrinsically or fundamentally for the universe. It doesn't solve a problem that exists in the universe. It isn't a key to a lock. It isn't in any way complementary to some circumstance in the universe. So there's no outside of itself value for which you can justify it. It has to have its justifications in its own function. And I've used that word more than once. Function.
There's there's no purpose, but no
Yeah, no function.
elevating purpose.
Yeah, more gas goes in than miles traveled. That's right. It's insufficiently efficient. How many times have I said that in a video now? Insufficiently efficient. It doesn't meet the minimum standards of efficiency. It consumes more than it produces. It consumes more value than the value it produces. It's like going to the store and spending $1 million to buy an old shoe. It's stupid. Logically. Fuckhead.
There's no reasonable purpose to evolution and life.
Again, this is not something I said in my video. So again, this isn't a response to my video. My video wasn't about purpose.
Understanding as I think I do.
Yeah, well, I'll just say it to you then. Yeah, I totally understand. You're a psychopath. Okay, yeah, get it. I understand.
Gary's philosophy, that the base of it emanates from valuation, categorization, definition thereof, is what counts.
Yeah, so let's call life an accident. Okay, so now we've disposed of the purpose word forever. Let's agree it's an accident. There's no intention. There's no mindfulness. There's no intelligent guidance. Right? This was established in videos I made 8 years ago. But okay, let's just pretend that's not the history. So let's just establish it now as an ultimate, explicit fact that all I'm saying is there's no fucking God. There's no fucking intention. There's no intelligent creator. There's crude forces. And we will call the product of their function an accident. Right? And so now all we have to decide is it a happy accident or is it a sad accident? That's the fucking question. And as Benatar points out, you really don't have a choice here. It's either a sad accident or a really, really preposterously sad accident. But those are your two choices. Little bit of a horror or a big fucking grotesque horror. All you can do is make it worse. You can't fix it.
I'm not even sure this ought to be in the conversation.
Right, so he's saying value shouldn't be in a conversation. So then exactly what is the point of a conversation then? If you're not going to talk about a value truth or the truth of our existence, if philosophy isn't going to be a discussion about the truth, about what is the truth, then why the fuck would I engage in it? Why would I engage in an exchange of fables, stories I make up of value? That would be like exchanging. You don't see anybody on the internet. You really don't see anyone exchanging made-up Hansel and Gretel stories or Goldilocks stories or Red Riding Hood stories. And especially in this part of the internet, no one's doing that. Why would any reasonable person waste their time saying, tell me a story, Hothladay? Fuck you, I'm not interested in a story. If you don't have something that is logically, factually based, then what's the fucking point? But for you to sit there and tell me that because there's no God to tell you the value exists, there's no such thing as value, and that's all you're saying, because it's not written down in the universe somewhere, like the universe didn't write down, I have value. You're saying intelligence can't see the value. Well, that's because you're too fucking stupid to be believed. It seems all too convenient.
Rewind.
Yes, rewind. Really, what is your possible motivation? Why would somebody do this nihilist thing unless they're like they raped some babies or something? right? There's no reason to sit there and say, oh, yes, because there's no God, it means there's no value in the universe. Nothing can be compared. Two circumstances can't be compared, and we cannot figure out qualitatively which circumstance is better than the other circumstance. That's impossible because all circumstances are equal. Razor blade in the apple is just as good as not razor blade in the apple. Right. Fuck you.
Well, it strikes me that to grumble
Just count them.
at the lack of purpose in life.
Again, that's not what I'm grumbling about. I'm grumbling because it's function, okay? It has a lack of positive function, all right? It doesn't produce anything besides trivial gratifications, and it cost horrendous suffering, which you don't account for because most of the things doing the suffering you're a bigot against, and so you have niggered them into non-existence conveniently, and that's all you've done with lies and nonsense. You don't have a single solitary piece of evidence demonstrating that other mammals, especially great apes, wouldn't feel exactly what you feel if they got kicked in the nuts. Not one fucking shred of goddamn evidence do you have that the impact on their welfare wouldn't be just as fucking significant. Not one shred of fucking evidence. And yet you claim it as a truth, in a world where you claim there to be no truth, which just makes you preposterously stupid.
Or the lack of reasonable purpose in life.
Again, he keeps going, no, reasonable function. You still can't say the word, can you? Okay? Understandable function, applaudable function, discernibly positive function. Again, back to Benatar and the demonstration that you still don't get that simple argument. That it's not functioning, okay? Function doesn't mean you spill a gallon of milk on the floor and then clean up half of it. That's not called functional. That's called an asshole.
Is to suppose there ought to be a reasonable purpose in it.
Yeah, so now would it be sensible to say that, let's say there was a money store and you went to the money store with money and bought money, and so you had two choices, okay? You could pay $10 and get $100 back, or you could pay $10 and get $1 back. This asshole says, that's not a conversation. That's not a subject. There's nothing to discuss. Both choices are equally valid. It just doesn't matter which one you choose. One isn't intrinsically stupid and loss creating, and one isn't clearly profitable. One isn't rationally chosen or logically chosen. If there was a smartest intelligence in the universe possible to create the most brilliant thing in the universe, the most brilliant thing in the universe would know what line to get in.
And I don't think that has been debated as such. We've locked horns on the issue of valuation. I hope.
It's no locking of horns once we discover that you're just a bigot. All right? You've just discounted the majority of sentient life on this planet like some Martian invader. You've just said they're just food. And that's it. But you haven't justified any of that with anything called evidence or an argument or anything like an argument. You've just said, hey, Kant doesn't count animals as feeling things that matter, so why should I? That's all you've done. Pop culture says it's food, so therefore it's food. That's not a fucking argument. The argument from ignorant popularity based on what the Pope says. Well, guess what? I don't consider what the Pope says to be a persuasive argument because I'm logical.
Inmendham and others would see that to grumble that evolution is pointless.
Again, that's not what I was grumbling, okay? Again, he's using the word pointless, but he's not using the word functionalist. So again, he's saying, look, we've had the argument about the value thing. Yeah, that's the argument I'm having. I've always had that argument. I've never had any other argument. There is no argument about its purpose, because it can't have a fucking purpose. It's impossible for it to have a purpose, because there's no thing that created it, you idiot. Again, I said that 8 years ago. Alright, there is no God, either in the form of a computer, or a very smart rock, or really, really intelligent lava. No, there's no intelligent creator. It's evolution. It's a DNA molecule. This is the consequence of replicating chemistry. And that's all it is. Nothing else. No intelligent sparky spark. Duh. That is not the subject of my last video. That was the subject of my videos 8 fucking years ago, retard. The subject of my videos now are, life is insufficiently efficient.
That it is not a fruitful endeavor.
There you go. So now you've mixed the two subjects, straw man all over the place. I don't even know what to call that. You separate the two subjects and then you shove them right together. Which is it, asshole? They're not the same subject. The non-existence of God, the creator, the intrinsic purpose, and the function of evolution are two separate subjects. First we say, yes, there is no purpose served by making living things on Earth, just like there would be no purpose served in making living things on Mars, or Venus, or Jupiter, or the Moon. There's no intrinsic purpose served because there's nothing to be gratified by the creation of them. Get it? And so they exist, and now you just have the question of, is its existence functional? Oh, shit.
Bear fruits of sufficient reward. 1,000 ways of saying the same thing, but it amounts to the same thing.
So you see, he just says it amounts to this. No, it doesn't amount to the same thing. They're not the same subject. You can't say that valuing function is the same as talking about purpose. It's not the same thing. It's not. It's a moot point in the fucking evolution of this conversation, in the sense that this has already been gone over. The only point to the word purpose is to create something, like I said, a deliberate intent. There's no intent. Intelligent. It is a. One of my best videos is called Unintelligent Design. You don't get it? Shit. Jeez, you really are stupid.
To grumble about it is to presuppose and state.
To grumble about it. Again, to what? To bring up the fact. Oh, okay, that's grumbling. Fuck you.
That there ought
whining bitch.
to be a purpose.
Yeah, there ought to be a function. Again, if you're going to pay for something, shouldn't it have a function? Would I go to the store and throw out $100 and buy something that said, purposeless, unfunctional pile of shit? And if I did do that, would anybody have any reason to respect my judgment? These aren't just rhetorical questions, douchebag.
So I think we could agree on that. I hope we could agree on that, because that seems pretty firm.
So you see, to him, he's thinking that the majority of people actually believe that it's inconsequential. That it doesn't matter how many Jews you kill in a Holocaust. It doesn't matter how many kids get raped and killed. It doesn't matter how many people die of AIDS. None of that matters. It's completely irrelevant. Who cares how many fucking black men cops shoot? Who cares how many people get run over walking across the street. Who cares, right? Doesn't matter. As long as it's not you, right?
For me. And I understand, or think, should I say, that all this dialogue that I output, that Inmendham outputs, that most people output, is really to an atheist community. Yeah, it's...
Well, that word doesn't mean anything. There's atheists doing prayer videos. Meditation. You know, kind of like the atheists aren't atheists. You take no consequence. You take no responsibility for evolution. That is the God now. That's the creating force, is evolution. And it's a force that's consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, and addiction. And that's just a fact. And you take no responsibility. You take no responsibility for the fact that it's an ignorant force, okay, that it has no such thing as some regulator to control how horrible things get. None whatsoever. It couldn't care less how much torture is in the soup. It just couldn't. We're lucky it's not worse than it is. It could be much, much worse. And it may be much, much worse for other sentient life on this planet. They might just live a completely tortured existence. They might be whipped every fucking day by their consciousness into pushing through the humus. Somebody should strap you to a wagon and treat you like absolute shit for a little while, just so you can get a little feeling for it.
And I'd like to think that 99% of atheists understand that there is no purpose to life.
Well, again, see, what's the point? So he's saying I'm implying that there should be a purpose, that there should be a creator, right? Isn't that what he's trying to imply here, that I'm somehow suggesting there should be a creator? No, what I'm suggesting is it's an accident, and I'm suggesting it's a bad accident. It has consequences, and those consequences are that billions and billions of sentient creatures will be tortured so assholes can wear ugly, stupid, fucking faggoty shirts. Yeah. Dull, dim, droopy, tubby assholes.
Just better let this cat in.
Oh, please. So let's zoom through cat feeding. Didn't wash his hands. Which is kind of
If you're
gross.
hoping to convince atheists.
Whatever. I'm not hoping to do a goddamn thing. What I'm doing is making a rational argument in a sea of goddamn shit. Okay? I've arrived on planet Earth because some asshole like you thinks they have a right to throw me here on this insufficient slop. And I'm just pointing out that I'm sitting here looking at the insufficient shit. I'm looking at the cesspool I'm rowing through, okay, where I'm doomed to failure in the end anyway. I'll just have to get lucky I don't get some horrible disease and spend the last year of my life in some horrible condition. That's if I'm lucky. No other reason. Not a matter of merit or deserve. No, I'm going to get what I'm going to fucking goddamn get, and it's not going to have a fucking thing to do with deserve. Right there, I should not open my mouth. Don't say anything about the fact that we don't get what we deserve. You're just griping. Oh, shit. I mean, look, you're an idiot, okay? You're a preposterous asshole. You're saying, no, I volunteer to throw you on a cruise ship to hell, when you haven't even gone the distance. You haven't died yet, asshole. You can't kill yourself, apparently. You've tried and failed, all right? But you haven't died yet. You haven't gone through you haven't played the whole fucking game, and yet you invested somebody else in it. It's like deficit spending, okay? I mean, it's just fucking idiotic and irresponsible. Oh, I'll pay the bill later. And I'll mortgage some here. I'll take what I want now. But the bill's going to be paid, and whether you pay it or somebody else pays it, somebody's going to have the brain tumor, and their eye is actually going to be forced out of their fucking head. Somebody's going to have to go through that shit, because assholes like you can't just sit there and say for a minute, oh yeah, deserve has nothing to do with this game, therefore the game is pretty goddamn fucking stupid. If the team who didn't deserve to win wins, then I guess you really don't have much of a fucking goddamn game, do you? There's not much fucking point in playing a game where you give people what they don't want to eat. Is there? Really? Are you going to tell me there's a reason to play a game called Deserve has nothing to do with it? Fuckhead? Hello? Is he talking?
We'd all agree that there's no purpose to life.
Oh, here we go again. We'd all agree. Well, again, we wouldn't all agree. There's all kinds of loonies, okay, who call themselves atheists, or all kinds of pantheist mumbo-jumbo, so don't be even playing that game like we would all agree. But no, we wouldn't all agree, because people keep making up new fables, new fantasy stories about what life is, and singularities, and, oh, we're all going to go into the super hologram, and, ooh, rub the giant universe dick.
So, first of all, you'd have to argue that there ought to be a purpose.
Yeah, I don't have to do a goddamn fucking thing. Again, I'm on the boat. I'm just fucking commenting on what I see, okay? It seems pretty fucking obvious to me. You gotta have a counter argument for deserve has something to do with it? Do you have some evidence that deserve has something to do with it? Do you have some evidence that somebody with a reasonable, logical mind should like to play some game called Silly Addiction Torture Game? Let's play the Addiction Torture Game. Is there some way you can explain to me that this isn't about addictions and torture? That this isn't about silly, contrived ambitions and torture? So you want to play a stupid, idiotic game called Silly Ambition and Torture. And I sensibly say, I don't want to play. That's my obligation. I don't have any other obligation than to say, you're fucking insane, you stupid cunt. You're an insane motherfucker. There, I've satisfied my goddamn obligation. I've identified the idiot and the retard and the fucknut who's been officially classified as this. He even claims himself he's an Asperger. Yes, well, he certainly has the ass part right. A big fat ass.
Right? Not just grumble that there isn't, because we're...
Yeah, well, I'm not just grumbling. I'm pointing out how you assholes who think you're doing something called philosophy are out of your fucking minds if part of the philosophy isn't acknowledging that the other mammals on Earth, at least, are sentient, that there's no evidence that their sentience is less than yours, that there's any evidence that when they get kicked in the nuts it hurts less than yours hurt. There's no evidence for any of this crap you're talking. So I guess I'm not just grumbling. I'm showing you people to be fucking lying cunts, bigoted cunts, selfish cunts, who have absolutely no fact-based argument to make. You can't come up with a goddamn fact demonstrating how you have a right to impose torture on somebody else to have your amusement park fun. And the fact that you say, well, all of us who haven't died yet, and all of us who haven't had a brain tumor shove our eye out of our head, we all agree that it's great fun so far. Well, guess what? That sounds like a fucking testimony from a goddamn retard. Yes, the car drive was great. If you exclude the part where we had the fiery crash. Fucking asshole.
We'd all kind of be in agreement with that. And I guess...
We'd all be in agreement with that. Like, he talks like there's somebody else on Earth who has this affliction besides, what, 17 other assholes who can't figure out what value is. Who can't figure out that you don't put razor blades in apples and think it doesn't matter.
Those who aren't inclined to favour Inmendham's position are saying, you know, what we want is the right and choice to find our own purposes.
Find our own purposes. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. You're saying you're going to find your own function? You're just going to declare function? You're not obligated to define function within some sort of parameters of use of resources, consumption of fucking torture. That somehow the function of your existence, that's the purpose of your existence, the function of your existence would have something to do, how functional you'll be declared as a human being would have something to do with maybe how many babies you molest, or how many fucking women you rape, or how many fucking, I don't know, 16-year-old girls you murder. That maybe somebody would say, yes, that makes you unfunctional. Fuckhead.
And recognise that there's nothing intrinsically purposeful.
Right, so again, no intrinsic value. Again, it's not about purpose, it's about function. Function's about value, consumption of the gasoline, production of the movement of the car, that we can figure out what the efficiency is, we can figure out what the constituent values are that are being consumed, what's being consumed, what's being produced. Well, we know what's being produced, the gratification of senseless, idiotic, inane ambitions. Okay, and what's being consumed? Horrible, torturous suffering imposed on individuals who hate it, wish it never happened, can't stand you motherfucking idiotic cunts for putting them in this idiotic position, shoving them in this idiotic boat ride to hell. Fuck you, cunt. You had no right. You have no fucking right.
In evolution and life. And that's my position, is that I recognise the right of myself to pursue my own purposes.
Again, my own purposes, right? So what video have I made where I talked about life's purposes and achieving life's purposes or any of that shit? No such fucking goddamn video. I'm talking about function. So what is your example of your personal function? Explain to me how you could possibly be called functional, okay, if you were a maniacal torturer of sentient beings, which you are. And you convenient, oh yes, the ultimate inconvenient truth, right? We're back to, let's soil the environment. That's an inconvenient truth, that's happening. It's an inconvenient truth that we've borrowed, we've essentially enslaved the future, okay, to the rich, right? Truth, inconvenient, let's just pretend it didn't happen. Well, it did fucking goddamn happen. I mean, you're just such... And the ultimate inconvenient truth is, no, your function isn't going to be declared by you. It's going to be declared by your actions, asshole.
And the rights of others to pursue their own purposes.
So again, does that make any sense? You're telling me that you think there's an equality between somebody pursuing a cure for AIDS in a laboratory somewhere and somebody raping 13-year-old girls and killing them. Those two things are equal because it's satisfying somebody's own purpose, their own sense of a gratification and reward. Therefore, those two things are equal. God, you're just too fucking... Yeah, drink
but
more...
all that seems
drink some more soda.
irrelevant in a way, given that the underpinnings of Inmendham's position is based upon the categorization and recognizing of value. What I'm saying is, I don't understand why so much precedence and emphasis is placed upon grumbling at evolution, when it seems to me...
Yeah, okay, so you don't grumble at the mechanism that puts value at jeopardy. So if there's a mechanism, the conveyor belt, dumping stuff into the blender. Alright, the blender's bad, but I mean, you don't even judge the conveyor belt's function.
I ought to be trying to formulate different ways of articulating the motivation and
Yeah, he's struggling, right? The motivation. Oh, you mean like, oh, okay, I love my son. I wouldn't want my son to be killed by somebody pursuing their own purpose, okay, which is to come in my son's mouth and then kill my son. Yeah, I wouldn't want them to do that because, personally, it's not to my advantage, but yeah, I kind of know that even if it wasn't my son, this isn't going to be a good event in the universe. Fuck you. You're just too fucking stupid.
Reasoning behind the categorizational definition.
Yeah, right. Good and bad. Oh, so we need reasoning behind the categorical definitions of torture and gratification. We don't understand that that's what we're trading. Oh, okay. I have to explain this over and over and over again somehow. That you pay a price for your existence, and the price paid is the amount of pain that's going to be endured not only by you, but by the people you fucking infect with your existence.
I know he has done this, but the point is
Yeah, well, the point is what? Oh, that you're pointless. That you're a slandering sack of gooey crap. And you should slither back under some goddamn rock that I could step on and accidentally squish you.
this is first of all, I've made the point just that the purposefulness of life seems somewhat irrelevant, and second, I'm making
Yeah, so again, where in my video was the purposefulness of life part of the subject? It was entirely a video about the function of life. There was no talk of any purpose part. That is an old conversation, an 8-year ago conversation. Okay, atheism, okay, is a other subject. I mean, atheism is a minor intellectual accomplishment. Okay, it's a minor perceptual enhancement if you don't understand what evolution is. If you don't understand the new God, which is a dumb force called evolution, then you don't really know what it is to be an atheist.
point now that given that irrelevance, surely you would try and argue for why I don't understand. I have to be in Inmendham here. Would be saying I don't know why you guys aren't recognizing what.
I know why. You have fat asses. I don't. Yeah, no. The reason why is because you're selfish cunts. That you have no intellectual integrity. You give a shit not about the truth of anything, and all you are is playing some sort of psychological ego game where you're strategizing a side to choose and a position to put yourself in life where you, like Antikantavad, can say, what's in it for me?
What I'm doing and why you must do it. You must categorize and stick the label on sentience of value and.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just saying, there's no logical alternative. So until you articulate to me how it is possible for me as a sentient being who's experienced sentience to discount the experience of other sentient beings. Now, if you want to claim they're not sentient, that's a different kind of claim, but it's even more ludicrous because there's even less evidence of that. So again, how far, how deep a hole of ignorance do you want to dig yourself into? Because you're going to sound just like a creationist lunatic if you start talking about, well, God says the animals don't have, they're beasties. God says they're supposed to be eaten. It's going to sound like that. It's not going to sound like a rational argument.
Entwined in that value definition is good and bad, and there you find your oughts.
He's talking like this isn't intrinsically and fundamentally, yes, the most rational thing you can do in the circumstance is evaluate it. That's right. You show up on Earth and you gotta start evaluating. And as a sentient who's experienced sensation, my first evaluations were, oh, my sisters are alive and conscious. Ah, damn it. I can't, do horrible things to them. Yeah, oh, I can't. Yes, I'd have to take responsibility for harm they might experience. That was one of the first occurrences. And then you start realizing, oh, all these other things are sentient, and all these other people, and then there's all the furry animals, and then there's the little not so furry animals, and you say, well, gee, they seem to be interacting in the world just like I am. They seem to have the idea of fear. Yeah, they seem to be operating based on some sort of visceral emotional response. So where's the evidence that it doesn't exist? Oh, that's right, you don't have any evidence that doesn't exist. It's the very nature of the living thing, is the more complex they get, they gain this psychological consciousness.
And then we're awake. And the conclusion is the red button.
So, it hasn't been part of my subject. I haven't talked about the red button. I haven't talked about the fact that, again, the red button was just used as an example of how there is no ethics beyond the crude fact that there is pure profit in preventing torture. And that's a fact. There's nothing gooder than preventing bad. It just isn't. But that's not the subject, right? The subject is broader than that, and the subject now is where does the human race go from here? Does it have any hope of traveling in the universe? Does it have any hope of having a technical solution beyond, shoving a bunch of drugs or electrodes into its brain and pretending to live a meaningful life? What hope is there? We're just entertainment seekers, period. And all we can do is make more expedited the little joy moments, period. We can live delusions, but there is no reality to be lived.
The problem for me, and for anybody who's tracked the conversation between Inmendham and I...
For anyone, I don't think they have your problem, I'm sorry. And if they do, let's hear them articulate it. Let's hear somebody make a video as dumb as yours. Please, I haven't seen it. You want to point to me a video as dumb as yours? I mean, Anacondavids are pretty close to as dumb as yours, but I don't know if they're quite as dumb as yours. But that's it. What other videos are there? What other examples of these brilliant nihilist crap arguments of we don't know what life is? We can't make a decision. At least they're saying we can't. You're saying there is no decision, which is even more preposterous. So go ahead, point me to the videos that are making the brilliant nihilist argument, and I will dig them 4 or 5 new cunts.
And I would hope for all those people who don't endorse Inmendham's position.
Don't endorse his position. Again, I'm not looking for endorsements. So that's really kind of meaningless. So what are you saying? Those who, have a competing, intrinsically and fundamentally more logical argument to make? Well, you haven't done it. You can't refute Benatar's asymmetry rationally. You haven't accomplished anything here in terms of making a rational counter-argument. Again, why is the obligation for me to persuade you? What, merely because you're a majority? The majority of the idiocracy that's been listening to a pope for thousands of years? I should worry about my credibility in this argument? No. You should worry about your credibility. You're agreeing with the popers. So your position is the one that's automatically suspect now that Nietzsche and I have declared God dead.
Is that we hold our hands up and say, oh, what's this? We must make that definition business about. No, we don't. when I pressed Inmendham.
I don't know. So no, we don't have to be logical. No, we can play the inconvenient truth game and just keep pretending the truth doesn't exist because it's inconvenient. We don't like it, so therefore we'll pretend it doesn't exist. But you haven't made a counter argument. You haven't made anything rational. You haven't given me a single breadcrumb of evidence to follow to see any light or any wisdom or any logic or any sensibility or any reasonableness in your nihilist position. It has absolutely vacuous nothing. It's a void of nothing as evidence.
For why we must make that definition in the first place.
What the why question is like asking, why would you look at your food before you eat it? Why would you investigate it and cut it open and make sure there's not a bunch of cat shit in it? Yes, why wouldn't you know the thing you're going to interact with? Of course you should know it. Why look under the hood when you're buying a car? Why? I mean, I can just say, why? Because it's perfectly rational to itemize, to evaluate, to figure out the game you're playing. And if you're going to conclude you can't understand the game you're playing, you don't understand the game you're playing, then you really can't justify having kids. I mean, if you're going to say you don't understand what life is, and you can't understand it, then how the fuck do you have a right? Because you've just declared yourself incompetent. You've just declared yourself incapable of making the right choice because you can't make any choice, because you have no knowledge. So you're the one in trouble. I'm the one 9 million times, a zillion times torture me for ever and ever and ever if I'm wrong. I'm so fucking confident.
The best he had to offer was, because intelligence sees it must be so, or something like
that. Yeah, like something like that. Like, that's not a good reason. In the fact that you can look at the evidence, evaluate the evidence, and understand what kind of game you're playing, right? That you could show up and you could watch some people playing a game. Like a Chinaman could come here, let's say, a Chinese person, and they never heard of Monopoly. And they could come and they could observe people playing Monopoly. And they could, through observation and analyzing and just seeing what's going on, they could figure out what the game was. No one would have to explain it to them. They could figure it out by analyzing the function. Yeah, and he's saying that somehow, what? That's an alien concept. We would analyze the evidence of evolution, the fact that it creates essentially this monstrosity of the animal chasing its tail, so to speak, chasing an ambition for which there will never be a gratification until their death, that they will die ungratified, uncompleted, insufficient.
And he talks about not being able to tell the reason why because he can't.
This is the part that's just a gross lie, right? The only thing I said was I can't explain consciousness in words to something that's never experienced consciousness. So something that's never had a feeling but can think. There's no way I can explain feelings to them. I have no metaphors to use. I can't make any it's like statements. There's no it's like consciousness. There is consciousness and there's not consciousness. There's no it's like. That's what I said, liar. And you really are a despicable liar. So I was talking about the inability to explain consciousness to something that wasn't conscious. I've never said I can't explain to other sentient beings who know what feelings are why causing torture and suffering and pain to other feeling things can be declared bad. I certainly think other conscious humans should be able to understand that suffering is bad. Yeah, they really should be able to understand that. I'm not saying they can't understand that. I'm not saying I can't explain that. What I'm saying is, if they're going to deny it, then they're psychotic. Okay? They're not just retarded or stupid. They're fucking insane. If you can't say that suffering sucks, you are fucking insane.
You can't inform a rock of what it's like to be sentient, and those kind of arguments.
That's not my argument. Again, this is just gross paraphrasing, right? I said I couldn't explain it to a supercomputer that's never had a feeling, not a rock. I wouldn't waste my time explaining it to a rock. It doesn't have a brain.
And those kind of arguments, I don't think I ever got an adequate reply from the comment I once made, which said, if I said that having had a child and seen the value in love and blah blah blah.
Oh, yeah, brilliant. I mean, shit. This is how he's going to make an argument. Yeah, if I saw value in love and blah blah blah. I mean, he can't even articulate this thing that's supposed to be a value, and this is how he describes it. Blah blah blah. Oh, amazing. But clearly, if somebody was to say, okay, I never experienced love, I never felt love, they could still say to me, well, it's like a toothache in your heart. Okay, like so to explain like a losing a loved one, or not having your love satisfied would be like a toothache in your heart. And then they could say, but love that works out is like blueberry pie with vanilla ice cream on top or something. You know, like you could metaphor it to some other positive or negative feeling if the thing was a feeling entity. But if it wasn't a feeling entity, then the truth is there's no way you're going to be able to explain love, are you? Because you'll have no fucking useful metaphor. Analogy.
Of having children and the wonderful aspect that it is of humanity.
See, now right there, isn't this just like happily ever after talk? This is all fucking fantasy, right? Let's all just pretend that's the way it works in reality, right? Let's pretend there's no dysfunctional families. Pretend that most kids in America are on food stamps. Let's pretend that most kids haven't had their future mortgaged by the last 40 years of deficit spending, right? So let's just pretend all of those things, okay, that we have this value when all we've really done is mortgaged the children into slavery. And you're going to tell me there's some value I'm supposed to see in that? Something you've gained personally? Again, I'm not supposed to analyze the function. I'm not supposed to see the absolute function, which is, oh, you love the horse, but you tie it to the wagon and whip it. Fuck you and your love.
And I can't articulate it, and I define this as supreme.
You can't articulate it. You can't even argue from any ground of even reasonable credibility. So yeah, you should have used an example for something where you actually have this value, where you actually did love a child or something. Why presume to say that you have some love? You're sitting there saying your child isn't even grown up, and you attempted suicide 3 times. Is that an expression of your love? Fuck you, I'm going home. Yeah, you push your wagon, shithead. I can't finish the race. I throw you into the race, and I can't even finish it. I'm such a fucking pussy. I mean, how can you make an argument about love and children, okay, under those circumstances? How can I possibly take this as a serious, reasonable argument made in any kind of good faith or honesty? This couldn't be more duplicitous. I've created children for love, right? And yet you can't even finish the race. You've forced somebody else to run the race that you can't finish. And you call that love. I call that selfish.
you must value it and worship it and praise it and work towards it with a goal and a purpose, blah, blah, blah. And only those who've had children can understand and see this, or those who have the natural inclination to see it. But if Gary doesn't, then I'm under no obligation. But trust me.
Well, again, see, so now isn't that an ultimate straw man, right? This is clearly a circumstance where you could say, well, look, yeah, I've never had that, but you could say, well, what about your affection for your cat? Or you could make some other comparison, just say it's times 10. You could say some kind of idiot argument like that, and you could say, okay, well, all right, I get you. You're saying it's 10 times. I'm saying it's 10 times better to be circumcised. I can say shit like that. I'm going to have a hard time proving it, though, aren't I? Yeah. So what's the point? You're going to make some argument that your capacity to feel love is meaningful. And yes, you can metaphor it to something. You can compare it to ice cream and bubble gum. But can you really make a rational argument? No, you can't. I say the fantasticness of being independent, being a mind and brain occupied in a focus of one life and orchestrating it to its perfection is enough of a job for one brain. That trying to figure out how to keep the other thing from getting its hands cut off seems to me a huge distraction and waste of my capacity to do anything in this world. So, I mean, I'd say it's 10 times better not to have kids. That's knowing love. Real love is not having kids.
You must do this definition. You know, I don't know if Inmendham's ever loved a woman. If I was to say, oh, love is the transcendent feeling which gives worth to everything, and worth and value, and only those people who have tasted it can know, you know, the truth of this. It would be inadequate evidence and argumentation for that point of view.
And well, you're saying it's inadequate, but it's the truth, though, isn't it? If somebody has it, I mean, I can't talk about what it is to skydive, can I? If I haven't skydived, I can only do it by association with other metaphorical experiences where I can say, well, I can analogize it to these other things and say, okay, it's somewhere in that category. But would I waste my time? No. Am I interested? No. It's like, you know, skiing. Somebody could talk about, oh, it's a magical experience. And I could say, well, yeah, it's maybe so. But it's 2 minutes long. It takes you half an hour to get up there. Your feet get frozen, and you might end up putting your face in the tree. So fuck it. You do it.
So I finished with Gary Inmendham at that position, saying...
Yeah, so he's saying that my position, when I argue that there's no way a non-sentient could possibly understand sentience, there's no way you can put it into words or use metaphors to convey it, that it's a legitimate argument. It's a factual truth. Show me the words you're going to use on a non-conscious, a non-feeling entity, an intelligence that doesn't know what a feeling is, and explain a feeling. Go ahead, let me hear what the paragraph is going to be like, because it's not going to make any sense. There's no way you can fucking do it.
Well, if that's all you have to say about that definition, then we'd hit the brick wall. So I thought he might continue to make videos to explore and try and work with that as the pinch point.
I don't need to. Most human beings are conscious. They have feelings. They do know what horrible feelings are like and what good feelings are like. So they're capable of understanding the argument that you can't impose bad feelings on non-consensual entities for purposes that you made up.
The brick wall that people meet up against. So the questions I've posed there is it accepted that, you know, there's no meaning in life, to gripe about that is to presuppose there ought to be, and that is a...
Yeah, that's right. If you're going to torture something, you ought to have some kind of documented, proven profit. So if you're going to impose torture, I want to see the profit. If you don't show me the profit, the absolute proven profit, I'm saying you can't. You're not allowed to torture, okay? I don't care that you're sadistic lunatics. I don't care that you're assholes. I don't care that you can't observe this fact for yourself. You can't see this truth. That's so fucking obvious. This manipulation by a DNA molecule for 4 billion years, and the horror that it has imposed in those 4 billion years. How many gazelles have been eaten by crocodiles? How many parasites have eaten the brain of conscious mammals? How much awful shit has gone on this planet, and you motherfuckers can't say anything like pause. You can't say you can't just even say, okay, maybe we should pause for a minute and maybe try to get a grip on some of this. No, you can't even do that. You're so running with your goddamn ball and you're so ready to dunk it into the goddamn net and be the big fucking hero. Okay, but what I'm saying is, I don't care if you can't see it. I don't care that you're too stupid to see it. What I'm saying is you don't have a right. Okay, so until you can prove you have something to show for it, I'm saying you don't have a right to impose torture. And that's in fact what you're doing. You're imposing torture on non-consensual victims, and you don't have a right. You don't have an environmental impact statement explaining why you can pollute, why you can commit a violation, okay, of somebody else's integrity, somebody else's welfare, okay, that you can put them in jeopardy for your purpose. You haven't shown how you have a profitable plan. So I can nullify you on that ground. I don't need you to understand anything except you're a selfish cunt. That one you should be able to understand, because you have nothing behind your argument except rubbish. The Pope says so. Nothing else. Tradition says so. We white males has run the world, so we should keep running the world.
Argument, or at least can be considered as such, are, at least if it isn't, and there has to be demonstrated that working from the value perspective, how you...
Yeah, you haven't demonstrated. Again, I don't have the obligation. I'm not making the fucking mess. You're the one doing the imposing, motherfucker. You're the one who has to have the excuse. You're the one that has to have the justification and the rationalization explaining why you have a right to do this to somebody else. I'm saying I don't have a right to fuck anything over. You're the one saying you have a right to do it. Explain yourself, fucker.
To arrive at demanding, I do appreciate, actually, there is a kind of...
Yeah, his argument will be the argument from the naturalistic argument, of course, right? Nature gave me a penis, therefore I can do whatever I want with it. That's all.
I think it's rather convoluted. It's not directly relevant.
Yeah, well, I think your arguments are trivial, simplistic, and idiotic. Just completely back-ass word. There's no value. I say so.